Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first episode of Resonance Cast, your soon-to-be go-to podcast for all the Blue Protocol Star Resonance related stuff. So I'm your host, Percy, one of the Discord admins for the Star Resonance database Discord server and the community. And I'm joined today by my two amazing co-hosts, Kai and Bidov. So, guys, before we start, hello. And can you give us a quick introduction? Kai, go ahead.
What up? I'm Kai. I am a moderator for Star Resonance Database and a Blue Protocol Star Resonance content creator as well.
And Bidov?
Hello, I'm Bidoof. I'm not a moderator, but I'm a content creator. I've been playing MMOs for about a couple decades now, but then really excited to start playing some more Star Resonance.
Awesome. Yeah, so for you guys, short TLDR what we're going to do today. So we're going to dive into the key highlights from the recent interview with Bookworth founder Roy, which got published recently on IGN. As you know, those questions were collected from our database community and forwarded to the devs, and luckily IGN gave us the platform to, they have obviously better reach, so that's why it was revealed, the answer got revealed on IGN's site, and we got a lot of positive feedback regarding all those questions and answers on the interview. So those going to be our today's highlights. And after that, depends on how much we yap. We might also briefly touch the topic about desync, or not the global release, but first China and then the Western audience. So we're gonna touch that topic if we have time. So yeah, let's jump right into the very first question in the interview, which was about the target audience, right? So Roy said that the game is for anime and MMO fans and has the PvE and casual focus. What do you guys think? Is that the correct target audience for the Western player base? So what are your opinions?
Do I believe that Roy chose the correct target audience? Yeah, I think so. This MMO, they showcase a lot of casual features, and I just think that he chose the correct audience. So what else?
Okay, Kai.
Yeah, I prefer the PvE side anyway. I'm not big on PvP in general, and generally when MMOs, especially recently, have PvP, they tend to be like a mess or pay to win base, or just to me, not much to enjoy. But as someone that really enjoys PvE, this is the right direction to me for sure, and as well as an anime game, because there's not really that much anime-based MMOs nowadays. We had our Kingdom Impact re-release recently, but after playing that, let's just say I can be more excited for Star Resonance.
I mean, it might be also. Sorry, go ahead.
There's a couple of anime games that were released recently. Definitely, like you said, or Impact, that wasn't that great. And then there was a Crystal of Atlan. The more I played that, I played that for about a week. I think most of you played it for maybe a couple hours and then stopped because just all the problems were just right there, immediate. But then I chose to play it for a week, and then the more I got into it, the more I just started missing Star Resonance. I think Crystal of Atlan did a lot of what Star Resonance done right, but Crystal of Atlan just didn't do it right. It just felt awful.
That's good to hear. I mean, I didn't play it at all. I saw streams. I checked your streams when you guys played it, and yeah, it was direct, right at the beginning. It was clear for me. The combat looked really great though, but beside from combat, everything else was okay. There are some issues. Also, what I wanted to mention earlier, it might be really good to know, especially for those people who are watching or listening to this podcast who never interacted with the database community or the Star Resonance / Blue Protocol community. So it's important to know that all of us played Blue Protocol. Kai and Bit played way more Blue Protocol than I ever did, and we also played the Chinese test for Star Resonance. So yeah. So there's a lot of experience there. That's why they can compare it with the recently released MMOs. And I think that's a useful information that some of the new audience
That's
should
really
know.
good to point out.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kai touched that PvP part. That is an ongoing battle for all MMOs, and I'm pretty sure you guys know that I mentioned it pretty often, that everyone should be aware that PvP audience, it depends on where you ask the question. Like if you go into or you're on platforms where more dedicated players are who have a lot of time to spend, you will have the feeling that PvP seems to be like a major part of MMOs, and any MMO without PvP gonna fail. But that's only the case if you disregard the casual player base, which is the actual majority. I would even say like 80-90% of the actual player base who likes to play MMOs are more on the casual side, and they don't participate in those Reddit or YouTube comment battles and 24/7 Discord chat battles. So they are not there to actually show the ratio between PvP lovers and MMO. But correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think in a lot of MMOs, when you see an active MMO and just compare how many people play PvP or GVGs, anything PvP related, it's like what, 10% or way lower. That's what I often feel like.
It's really low. So I came from Lost Ark, which was the most recent example I have with GVG and PvP, and man, I was in one of the more popular servers. I don't know if you guys know which one it was in West. It's Mari, which became Thaymine later. But Mari was one of the more populated servers out of all the West servers, and there's like almost nobody that wanted to actually do GVG. We were holding down the two S tier islands, which are like the top tier islands, for about a whole year, and nobody wanted to really contest. So we just got free gold during that. I mean, I also implanted some alts into other like PvP islands too, because nobody wanted to do those islands. So yeah, I can agree. I could get behind that there's not many people that want to do these kinds of like PvP, GVG style activities in PvE. PvE based games.
Right. I think it's only like PvP in games to me is only good, or MMOs, if you know that it's there from the very beginning. Like a game like Arcade I used to play back in the day. You would go out just hunting people, fishing boats and things like that, and trying to smuggle some gold and everything. And when you know that the game is PvP from the very beginning, I feel like you kind of know what you sign up for. I think Tournament of Liberty kind of was like that as well, as an example. So when it has it from the beginning, it's acceptable, I feel like, because you know what you are getting into.
Yeah. I mean, even then, it's like there are going to be a lot of people who are going to love the actual combat of the game or the visuals, going to join it even though they know it's going to be PvP, and then they get grieved or attacked, and they're going to stop playing the game. Like it depends on how invasive PvP is, if you can even call it invasive, in the game. But yeah, so before we just yap about one question for 30 minutes, just move on. I mean, we can take notes, and I think I'm pretty sure we will have some more podcasts before the actual release of the game. So by the way, guys, if you want us to talk about specific topics more in depth, then feel free to comment or write in Discord, just message us, and we will make it happen. Okay, so The second question is about monetization, which we can kind of combine with the first question. There are some overlaps. So they promised no pay to win, but pay for convenience, right? So is that really fair for all players, or like this is the ongoing battle? Another ongoing battle in the MMO genre is like the pay to win stuff, and if you ask people, it looks like everyone agrees that pay to win is bad, and I think pay to win is bad. I agree, but everyone pretends like that we are agreeing that pay to win starts at line X, and everything below that is normal or fair, and everything above that is bad. But I have the feeling that pay to win is not a clear line. It really depends on who we ask the question, like what is the threshold where something turns into pay to win. The answer to that is not clear. For example, for some people, if you have costumes which you can only get through paying, that's already pay to win. For other people, anything which is free to play is automatically pay to win because they don't believe in anything being fair in a free to play a live MMORPG. And then we have the people who are like, oh, pay to convenience and pay to win are two different things, because pay to convenience is like, you can, if you are someone who is a casual person who can only play 2 hours per day, and then you have all those hardcore people just every time you log in, the gap just widens, and the pay to convenience stuff gives you the chance to catch up, and doesn't give you any exclusive rewards. But everything you can buy or get through that is also obtainable for the hardcore players just by investing time, which they obviously can and you can't. That's fair for them. But on the opposite side, you also have people who are like, anything you can buy which can lead to any stat boost or progress advantage is pay to win. So that was a long yap. So what is your opinion about this topic, Kai?
Yeah, I think that is very true. It really depends on who you ask the question, as you say. Everyone has a different perspective of what is considered pay to win. To me personally, I would consider pay to win, let's say I am buying a piece of armor and there's no other way to obtain this piece of armor, and this armor has like some best stats. That is what I would consider pay to win. But let's say you have these 3x tickets that give you 3 times rewards, so you have to grind less, and then the other free-to-play player doesn't do that, so they just have to grind a bit more. That's like paid for convenience, and personally I would consider that not pay to win, if you get what I mean. But
Yeah.
that's my point of view on like pay to win versus like pay for convenience. I don't really care as long as I can obtain it for free. And the pay-to-win players can swipe for it, sure, get it a bit faster, but we can get it as well as free-to-play players.
Well, I'm like on the opposite end here. Well, I think that pay to win and pay for convenience is the same thing, in my opinion. I mean, everyone has their own different opinion, but I very much think that it's the same thing. I think it just depends on how far you go with swiping. Like, let's say what you said, Kai, with the dungeon tickets. And by the way, these are a thing in Star Residence. Yeah. You buy these tickets, and then you get 3x the reward for a dungeon. I think it just really depends on how much of an advantage you get. Like since we all played Star Residence, we know how much the advantage is for getting those tickets. I don't believe it's that huge of a like pay to win advantage, so I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. But like, there's other issues in the game, like let's say the premium currency to in-game Luno, which is the in-game currency. I think that's kind of stepping over the what I would say my border for pay to win. I think that's actually kind of pay to win. That's really pay to win, not kind of, but really pay to win. I think that should be removed. But again, everyone has their own different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that what you just mentioned at the end, the conversion from real life money into the Luno part, that's something which was asked also in the interview, right? That basically the reply which I read about monetization was what Roy's statement was about this. I would be more happy if they remove it, but overall, I think once again, both of your opinions is fair, and I really want to make clear these are opinions, and it really depends on what kind of play you are, what your goals are, and that's where the pay to win starts. And I hope, man, I hope everyone would understand that pay to win is not like a clearly defined term, right? It really depends. It's based on opinion. Exactly, and it really depends on what you can get from with the Luno. So based on what I saw, the gems. I mean, if they were kind of easy to get, like what kind of items you can get from the auction house or by converting your real life money into the unbound lunar is something which gives you a huge advantage. Like, just
it would, to me, it would just be the imagines, and that's about it at the moment. And the blue
Imagines
orbs, of course.
Yeah, the blue orbs, since blue orbs are a time gated resource and you need those for gear progression.
Yeah, I am kind of fine with the echoes now, since they made the huge change that you don't need like 5 copies to level up your stuff, as far as I heard from those Chinese leaks or something. Or actually, I think it was also in the official one. I remember they mentioned that. So if there's like no immense grind involved to get that, then I'm fine with it. But I totally agree with the blue orb, and that's something we should all as a community try to get removed from the auction house. I feel like it's just one small change. Okay, if they don't want to do remove the conversion, okay, I can't also, like, if I view it from the other side of a casual player, like if you have no ways to catch up to all those people who can invest 6-10 hours of their time, which you can't as someone who has a job and or some other stuff and real life stuff to do. Like, it doesn't feel great as a casual player if you go in and can never catch up and always feel like you're at the bottom. And giving them the chance to, and I know it sounds bad, okay, to pay and get or catch up to a certain degree helps. And now all those people are going to hate me, but this is, not sadly, but depends on where you are, is the silent majority. If those kind of things never work, they wouldn't put those things in. We can all say, oh yeah, stop buying anything. If we don't buy, they will never had those things and give us what we want. I'm 100% for that. Like, if we can get together and agree, hey, let's, it's a strong word, boycott this, and let's not buy this and send a clear message. If we can do that as an MMO community, we will make difference. But that's not the case. There are enough people who won't openly admit that they are using the system, but they do it because it helps them to catch up to a certain degree. And that's a sad reality. So money talks more, actions talk more than just some people writing in Discords and Reddits and YouTube comments.
Right. Well, I agree with that. I think they could go like a different way about having new players catch up rather than having them buy blue orbs. Have like specifically new player events or something that appear like once a week or something. So they have like a chance to catch up with the veterans of the game rather than forcing them to be like, okay, let's buy it.
Wait, Kai, don't isn't one of the leaks show that like you do there is catch up systems?
Yes.
Not only do you get more EXP, but there's also, I heard there was like a shop now. But I could be wrong on that, but we'll have to see on that on release. But that's what I heard from leaks.
Yeah,
there's like a new catch up shop.
Yeah, the difference is I wasn't talking about new players. I'm talking about people who start at the same time or started around the same time, and you will still see a clear difference between those who can afford to invest time and who can't. And that is not a new player issue. It's an active player base issue. And just because you can't play 2 hours doesn't mean you are, not an active player. You still want to play the game, you enjoy it, but it feels like the gap always keeps getting bigger. So and then they also used the argument that free-to-play players can grind, and those are those who can invest more time, and use the in-game currency and convert it into bound rose orbs and get some stuff which they would have usually or could have used money to get it, but they can now get it through grind. So that's the other side. So I know people don't like it if you try to view a certain topic from different angles. So there are good and bad things about it. In an ideal world, there's no item which gives you power which you can get through real money, and everything you buy is cosmetics only. But then you have people who are like, oh, that is also unfair. And then the real question is cosmetics enough to support a live service game on those kind of things? But that's going too deep in the rabbit hole. And I think monetization is another great topic we can dedicate an entire podcast to. But if you don't have anything important to this topic to add now, Kaya and Peter, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, I just think that they need to get rid of the blue orbs, but getting rid of the conversion also helps. That's all I have on it.
Praying for that.
It's just the ability to buy time gated items is already a little iffy. I just remove one of those two. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I the easiest one would be the blue one. So if Bokura or the Western publishers, A+ is listening, please remove those blue ones from the player auction house. Okay.
Yeah, because like you're definitely not catching up as a casual that doesn't swipe. But I will add before we move on that you won't really get that much of a like power spike using the blue orbs because it's just a linear upgrade. At a certain point, it's just you're just going to get diminishing returns off of the gear upgrades that it really doesn't matter. It's not going to be like Crystal Battling where you're like 10 times more stronger buying gear progression. You're like in Star Resonance, I would say it's like maybe like at least 2x stronger, I would say.
Okay.
Do you guys agree on that?
I think that was the case. Once again, I didn't fully invest into those blues, so it was even hard to get those things, man. They got sniped away because they are so rare. You had to stand and watch the auction house and refresh all the time. So nope. But yeah, as far as I know, that was the case. Okay, next one. Progression balance. So it was about the hardcore raids and casual content, if they are able to satisfy both players. So the statement was, they are trying to focus on these two aspects. I personally think there should be hardcore content, but it shouldn't be the major focus. Once again, the majority, that's my take. Any content, any progression related like vertical content, which you need once again to progress your gear, to unlock the next dungeon or whatever, should be easy as beep. Okay, it should be really easy. Like as a casual player, you shouldn't struggle too much. That's my opinion. And then there should be optional difficulties for those who want to do more. These kind of things shouldn't reward any exclusive progression related materials. It should reward the same, maybe a slightly better quantity. But what they can do is provide you with, like, if there's like 3 difficulties, let's say normal is the one for casual. It should be no brainer. Yet people with 2 fingers should be able to clear that content, okay? Or 1 hand, whatever. And then hard difficulty, for example, should be something which is slightly more difficult, also rewards you slightly more in terms of quantity of those things you need for progression. And then there could be like a really challenging nightmare or whatever you call it, which doesn't give you more than of the materials you need for progression, but it gives you some juicy titles or mounts or costumes. And I think that is the perfect way to approach it.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Like, the harder content, as long as there's nothing tied to like gear progression, I think it's all fair to just make it as hard as you can, as challenging as you possibly can. Normal should, what you said, be easy enough that you can clear it without like hands. You just play with your toes and you can probably still clear it. And then hard mode, like you have to actually put some thought into it. I think that's a really good approach for having content for casuals and hardcore.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to just have insanely hard stuff not be like rewarding in the sense for progression but like cosmetics. Me personally, as an example, I really like chasing rare drops. So to me, they can add in rare drops like pets, mounts, costumes, even like facial features or something. Costume wise, I don't care. Just anything that gives me a reason to chase the drop, and I'll be onto it. Honestly, I don't care.
Yeah, like in the April closed beta, there was the ogre dungeon, and most of us were already done with progressing gear and getting all the gear in that dungeon. But then some of us still wanted to farm that dungeon because it actually was the very first dungeon that dropped the cosmetic, which is a weapon cosmetic.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we farmed that like dozens and dozens of times for that.
Did you get
So
it though?
I think that something like that for I got it within like 5 tries, actually, not even a dozen tries, but I kept farming it with like other people that haven't gotten it yet.
Oh my god.
But then that's besides the point. I think locking that in harder content is the best way to do it for sure.
Yeah. Once again, I agree. That's also my point of view, and it's not besides the point, man. Some of us had farmed it for like hours and didn't get shit. Okay, so it still hurts.
I didn't get it at the very end. So
yeah, all those luckers. I hope all your luck is sucked away during the betas, man. Let's move on.
Okay, that was just mean. But okay.
Yeah, it is what it is. Okay,
deal with it. 95% fails.
So the next one is about system design and philosophy. So that's something really important to me too. So I played, most of the MMORPGs. Weirdly enough, so there's like a some background backstory. So weirdly enough, I didn't never got into the OG MMOs, WoW and Final Fantasy. I never liked it, man. Maybe also because I tried Final Fantasy at the very beginning, and then at some point I was didn't want to go back to tap targeting. I'm a action combat person. So what I really like, even those MMORPGs I really loved in the past few years, including Lost Ark, the issue is always that they add a system after another system and after another system. So if whenever you join the game after a couple months or even a couple years, you just get slapped with tons of systems. It's so overwhelming. So you have to read through tons of stuff, watch tons of videos to get the basic understanding, and I think that's really, really bad. And I am a huge fan of having minimalistic systems where you don't add more on top of it, but just expand the same system, so that people don't have to focus on getting to learn a new system every time there's an expansion or new update. Instead, they can focus on the new content. So what is your point or your opinion about this entire getting overwhelmed by system, Ty?
Yeah, I feel that. I've played some MMOs where they just actually Aura Kingdom, the old Aura Kingdom, kept introducing new mechanics or in things where it's like you're getting overwhelmed, especially as like a new player. So knowing that they're just gonna streamline it without adding more is good. They're gonna add like new depth, which is ideal as well. Personally, I think it's gonna head the right direction with this. I wasn't something else that I was gonna say, but I forget. My brain. God.
it's gone.
While you're thinking of that, you did mention Aura Kingdom. Yeah, I never played Aura Kingdom, the old one, but then I wanted to try the fresh new one that released like about a week ago from when this podcast is gonna be released, and I was just very much overwhelmed with all the mechanics that they had in the new version. I'm pretty sure they just ported everything that they had in the old version without giving too much of an explanation, and just said, "Here you go, have fun with it." And then I knew that I was gonna get overwhelmed if I just kept thinking about what certain stuff does, because you're just introduced to new mechanics like every like 5 or 8 minutes playing the game. So I just didn't even think about it. I just said, I just like I just equipped some skills. I just upgraded some stuff. I see the numbers go up. I'm like, awesome, cool, because I don't want to think about it anymore. Like there's a, besides gear progression, there was like one of them. It was like about fishing. They gave you like a whole, I don't know, almost 10-minute lecture on how to fish. I was like, damn, this fishing is gonna be really complicated. All right, and then I do the fishing, and it's like easier than Star Residence's fishing. Then what was the whole point of all the? It's just there's too much to learn, and I don't think the game does a really good job explaining it.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that I think that Star Resonance already has enough systems, having played the beta test, honestly. I think there's already enough systems that they can expand on to the point where they would just, as you said, overwhelm all new players. Like, if they would add any more systems than what they already have, we have like the gems, we have the life skills, we have the skills, we have like so much already, to the point where I think it's already in an ideal state where if they don't add more, it'll be fine.
Yeah, and then there's also one concern from the community, because there was a question on, I think it was like the dev interview, but then they mentioned how some of the tooltips, and like, because there's a whole guide page in Star Residence that tells you like everything, all the mechanics in the game, and some people were saying like some parts were a little too confusing. The devs did address that, and they did change a lot of the wording, so that's really good to know.
One thing I think we should do during the course of the entire podcast is, especially for those who never played the game or are the first time hearing about three random guys blabbering about this game and making a podcast, we should just, tell them what is the case in the game. So about this question, so the systems, one thing we should point out is, and which I think Bakura did really great, is the intervals there where when the system gets introduced to us. So I didn't have the feeling I got slapped with 10 systems at the same times. We gradually got introduced with enough break in between to just enjoy some content, and then we got a new system, and we got a tutorial for it. We learned about it, and then there was plenty, like a day or so in between before we got the next system introduced. Did you guys had the same feeling about it, or did you think it could be better?
I think it was fine. I think it's honestly one of the pros of the time gating system that they had, honestly, is that they could have those things be spread out rather than have them all at you at once. Because if there was no time gating, you would just get everything every few levels, and you would just be overwhelmed automatically, I think.
Yeah, I think because whenever you mention time gate in a in like an MMO, it's like people usually direct as a negative thing, but then there are some positives to it, and like you said, Percy, it was the like how they split up a lot of these mechanics that you learn, these new mechanics, like you learn like some of them every couple days. I think it's really nice how they planned everything out, where you learn like one or maybe two new mechanics this day, and then like the next day or the day after you learn like a couple more. So it's not like too overwhelming at all. I like it.
Yeah. One thing, it's a perfect point to, situation to point out something really important. So when they announced the time gating stuff, all of us here, and everyone I knew from the community was like, time gated? Oh no, we had that before, it's gonna suck. Like that, I'm generally, like, I'm 100% sure that was also the case for what you guys thought at the beginning, and it was for the same case for me. And then when I got to play how they did it, like, once again, this is a perfect example of something which is generally perceived as bad could be also only bad because it was just executed in a poor way in other games. And in this one, it sounds like I'm a fanboy of this, but just pure honesty here, I really liked it, just because of the system, how they got delivered to you. The other advantage is you had those main quests you could do together with the community. And another important thing before I forget about it, this time gate only exists at the release, right? So if you join the game a couple days or a couple weeks after, these time gates don't exist. So you don't have to wait a day until you can progress. These gonna all get unlocked for the entire server at the same time, and everyone who joins later, they don't have those locks anymore. But it is amazing. Like, it felt really amazing, even for just for the beta. Like, you knew, okay, tomorrow we will all go towards that quest. We will all do this quest. It's a rare feeling. You usually have those exciting moments in an MMO nowadays where there is no time gate. For a couple days, first couple days, and then it just vanishes because then the hardcore grinders are already done with the game and are doing some min-maxing stuff. The average player is like right in between, but scattered around the entire scale of all the content. And the 2-hour players or like 1 hour per day players are like still at the beginning. So it felt like, for vertical progression, the time gating was done in a really good way, so where the average player could complete it within a reasonable time, like an hour and a half, and still had some time left to explore and do some horizontal things. Do you agree, guys?
Yeah. And there was something I wanted to point out. Like, even if you get into the game, like let's say a couple of weeks late, and I like to just restate that there are catch-up systems already in the game. You don't have to make the account and then get the catch-up system applied to your account. Like the catch-up system will retroactively just be applied to the account depending on like how many days it's been since you've touched. I don't know how to explain it, but it's pretty much like you don't have to make a recent account just to get these catch-up systems applied to your account. So I think that's a really good way of handling it. And then I think a lot of people are going to be coming from games like Tower Fantasy and Crystal Atlan, games that have these time gates, and people that have like PTSD from these MMOs that have really bad time gates. I'll say this again, after playing numerous MMOs for 20 years, I very much strongly believe that Star Resonance has done a really good job with the time gate.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. Oh, go on, Badoof.
I was just gonna say, like, you guys just have to try it out in the global beta, see what you guys think too. I mean, I've always been pushing how Timegate is not that bad in this game, but then some people are just gonna have to experience it for themselves.
Yeah, experiencing it firsthand is definitely the way to go about it, to see how you feel about it yourself after having played it like a few days in like a beta test or something. I think it's kind of magical the first days of an MMO, generally speaking, but as Percy said, generally that magic vanishes away after the first few days. So the fact that they have it time gated, and I remember that in the beta test, as an example, we would unlock a next area on reset, so there would be like a group of people grouped up before that area unlocks, before the reset, just to all march into the next new area to see what's there, you know. And I think there's something magical about that, and I think if they keep it that way, and as we progress, that magic will stay for at least a longer time than, let's say, a new MMO where it's just the first few days where it feels like that.
Okay, that was hopefully an interesting take, and I hope we provided those people who never or didn't have the time to follow every bit of news. I hope we are helping out with all this tiny bit of detail. The next question would be, let's keep it really short, okay? I hope we don't take like 30 minutes for each and every question here. So the next one was about world events. That's the one I think I really wanted to have. Final Fantasy has the fates, right? So what they mentioned is, okay, they like the idea, but currently they are focused on a lot of other core mechanics, and they didn't say it won't happen. They will most likely, it feels like they will most likely add those events, but it's not current prior. And I think, once again, that's a good signal. I really like it if devs know what the priorities are and know how to focus on more important things. And then once they are done with the core systems, move on to new things, which can make the game even better. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Fate, it's fine if they add it later as long as they add it at some point? Or it should be the case from the beginning?
I believe that it
Go ahead,
should
actually.
be the case in the beginning. I mean, like, you know, first impressions do matter a lot. And whenever because I did interview like a few content creators in the closed beta test for the Star Residence April test, and whenever I asked the exploration question, like they would go on and on talking about their experiences on it. Like they're really passionate about the exploration topic. Talked about it for like 20-25 minutes. So I think exploration is actually just a really huge subject for a lot of MMO players, and I just wish that they focused on that and had a decent, or had not like decent, but like just had these like fate systems already in place from the beginning.
Yeah, I think it would have been ideal if there from the beginning. I don't mind it there being there a bit later, as long as they do it sooner rather than later, right? Because at a certain point we're gonna have some downtime like every MMO has, and at that point people are gonna get like to the nitty gritty of like exploration and things like that. And if the things like fates do not exist by that point, or even like more mini games and things like that, or things to do in general, people will point out those flaws like they already have, as Bidoof mentioned. And I think it's only going to get worse at that point. Personally, I would like it to be there from the beginning as well, but it seems like they have other plans or other focuses on the beginning of the game.
I mean, exploration is like, if we remove the vertical content, we have exploration as one of the horizontal. And one big thing, which a lot of people disregard, but what makes or breaks the game, especially if it's obviously casual focused, and I think it's pretty clear at this point. I think it's also the correct decision for the next big MMO. If we disregard the hype phase, right? Like most of the MMOs when they release, they have like a huge hype phase and then just boom, crash. But for the next big MMO, which keeps the player base at a high level, I think it will be one which is focus more on the casual and social aspect. And social aspect is the key. A lot of content is, you should give the players the tools and freedom to make content by interact with other people, and that's where the social content comes in play. And I think besides the exploration part, when they provide enough tools to make our own content, like, I don't know, role play, and stuff like that, it helps a lot. And I didn't have the feeling during the beta that I ever ran out of content, even though I was fully focused on vertical progression. But whenever I didn't have were like tired of it, I could just do some exploration or just chill in the bar with those maid cosplays and role players. It was fun. I usually never did that, to be honest. I'm not a fan of role play, and I really loved it to be there and just chill with people.
Yeah, I think this MMO might convert a few of you guys. Be honest. Usually I just watch RP, but I think this is the first MMO where I started to just had the idea to just join in on the RP, and it was actually kind of fun.
Yeah, that's how it evolved from RP, and then you have like an E at the beginning of it. That's like
beautiful. Like roleplay.
Yeah. At some point, we will be
the suspicious kind.
Yep, Bidoof will be in a back corner alley and like, hey, okay, we should stop here. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, I was never into this thing, and I really liked it to just take just don't have the endless grind and like, I'm tired of it. Let's go to the bar. And then there's the maid who approached us like, oh, what do you want? And like, okay, maybe I like it. Okay, so we have next the crossovers, which is, I mean, that was a pretty obvious answer, right? Like, we just wanted the confirmation. Will there be crossovers? They said yes, and I'm pretty sure there's no one who's going to be like, no, we don't want crossovers.
Nobody's going to say no to that.
Yeah.
So if you guys could pick one anime, right, anime which you want to have a crossover, besides Sword Art Online.
Besides SAO.
Yeah, of course.
I think SAO is probably the most obvious one. I think we should try to give a different example.
Yeah, so Bitter, which one would it be?
For me, I think it's going to have to be Konosuba, because I mean, a lot of people mention free run a lot because I mean that's been a recent popular anime with a mage in it. But then, just looking over what community had been talking about, I see more Megumin mentions than free run. So I think Konosuba might be the better play, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was a nice way to put it. I mean, we all know why you want it. It's because of the aqua costume, but let's move on, Kai.
For me, it's the thing I already had mentioned in my previously. For me, it's just Hajime no Ippo. It's a boxing anime with some big bulky characters. Give me that in the game. Give me Takamura costumes, Ippo costumes, and I'll be a happy man. For a matter of fact, give me a boxing class while we're at it. Why not?
Okay.
Oh, wait. Actually, can I change my question? Answer real quick. Because I remember someone mentioned like there should be a Yu-Gi-Oh collab, and I think I strongly agree with that one more than Konosuba because with Yu-Gi-Oh, you know how they just how the main focus is just summoning stuff, right? I mean that's one of the gear that you use in Star Resonance, which is using imagines or echoes. I guess that's what they call it in English translation. You spawn in echoes. So I think it'd be really cool to have a collab like Yu-Gi-Oh in Star Resonance because having like an echo like Blue Eyes White Dragon, you're just spawning that in. I think that's awesome.
Oh my god, that reminds me of. Wait. That reminds me of the new thing they are actually trying in an MMO. Glad you brought up Yu-Gi-Oh, man. I would have forgot about this, right? This is something people need to know. So I was a huge fan of like non-MMOs doing this. I think it's called MTX for skills, where they change the animation. You buy something from the cash shop or unlock something through content, and then it changes the animation of your skills. Like they do the same. The numbers are the same, but the same. Instead of casting like a meteor, you suddenly cast like, I don't know, an ice comet, or like not instead of a fireball, right? Something like that. And when you two are talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, I just thought about it. Yo, it's actually a great idea if you can have buy an animation when every time you summon an Imagine, as you said, you summon a card and then the Imagine comes out of the card. That would be insane. And they have the technology for that because we have in Star Resonance ways to change how your skills look, and I love it. I think that's one of the best things you can do in a non-invasive or pay-to-win way. It's basically a costume for your skills. Let people have it. It doesn't hurt anyone. Okay. That was a simple question, and we yapped a lot, but I think it was fun.
That's fine.
Yep. And we have next here is the trading limitation, and I'm pretty sure we will have different opinions here. So I think what they say it in as an answer. Like for those who don't know, the shared warehouse is pretty limited, so you can share it with a couple people and then trade items with each other. But besides that, the only way to trade things is the auction house. So if I want to give bid of some items which can't be traded through the share warehouse, then it's about, hey, I'm putting in within the next 5 to 10 minutes it's going to appear. If you're not fast, then it's gone. So you can't rely on that system. I can totally understand a lot of reasons why they implemented it. And I can understand why they don't want to make it the case that you can trade everything by sharing the warehouse with someone, because that allows some, besides some, bot and real RMT stuff, it also allows or forces people into making alts. And I know it from playing a lot of MMOs. People going to be like, especially the hardcore players with plenty of time to make alts, going to be like, oh yeah, but that's optional, dude. That's optional. No, it's not optional. Like if you as a free-to-play player with, or not even free-to-play, someone with limited time to play, see that you can do alts, you will make alts, because you hear from all those people with 6-hour playtime, it's really efficient to do that. You will do that, even though for you it won't be efficient because you don't have the time to do both. So you will kind of slow down your progression by following the trend, and it doesn't feel great. And even if it's not forced, it's not the optimal way. And if you can't do it, it feels like a bad idea. It feels like, oh yeah, those guys, those alt Andes, the no-lifers. So provides a lot of bad or negative atmosphere into the game if you have those systems which soft enforce making alts. So what do you guys think about those kind of systems, or in general the warehouse situation?
Yeah, I think the warehouse system was definitely bad, but it seems like they're gonna keep it somewhat the way it is, and you can just share some resources. But personally, even though it was bad in like the previous test, I still had an alt. I don't think you will feel forced to do it in this way though, because like I think the majority is not gonna bother. But to me personally, as an example, I used an alt to make gems, and then I used my main to do like smithing and stuff. And I think it's just gonna end up the same way for me. Like it's definitely not pressure to grind on alts, but I feel like it's still gonna exist regardless of what they do, and people will just use the auction house way like it existed in the beta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that this is like a way to ensure that we don't get RMT, and then we also don't have people just making this game like an alt story game where you just grind different characters for hours a day. But then I think that they overdone it with the amount of limitations that there are for to prevent these kinds of things from happening, to the point where it's just not worth it for their target audience that they wanted the share warehouse to be for, which is for casuals trading amongst their friends. There's just, when you guys I'm talking to the audience right now, like when you guys interact with the shared warehouse, you're gonna quickly realize how much limitations there are, and it's just really not a great system. I hope they revamp it.
Two comments regarding that, like about what you guys said. The first one would be first about what Peter said, the limitation, like if you want to share with friends. I'm going to be brutally honest here, okay? Once again, hot take, unpopular opinion, I think. Most MMO players are, they don't have friends in that way you think. Like, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Most, like, we have the community. If I am part of this Discord community, it feels like everyone has a friend, right? But we try to project all those niche 24/7 active communities and try to project it towards the majority of the player base, which is usually not the case. Sometimes there are overlaps of opinions and trends, but I think you should never ask a hardcore community if or PvP focused Reddit group about if the game needs PvP or not. If you ask that group, the answer is going to be obvious, right? So I think majority of the MMO players is not joining the game with like 10 friends or with a full guild. You make friends over time, and a lot of people don't even like to. Like, somehow people don't want to admit it, but MMOs need solo content because a lot of MMO players don't want to feel forced to interact with other players. And then there are people like, it's an MMO, make friends, talk with other people, but don't force it. And that's one of those things. Like shared warehouse, I agree the limitations are pretty harsh, but at the same time, I don't think a lot of people or like everyone will be like, oh, I use the shared warehouse for everything I do. It's a major thing, and I just feel like it's bad. I think a lot of people won't even care because they're going to do their own thing. And the second comment is regarding what Pi mentioned, him making alts. If you combine it with what is happening with the warehouse and how the auction house system works, let's be frank. So Kai, so if you make an alt and you make gems, how does your main profit from it?
My main does simply not profit from it. I guess I just get these stats from it, and that's my whole deal about it, right? Because the thing about gems is whenever you lose one or you get new gear, you have to implement or engrave new gems. So the idea is basically just to get gems on the newer gear rather than having to worry about having to make it on my main.
The reason why I asked you this question is I was leading you towards an answer which needs to be mentioned to the player base. Even if you make an alt, you can't directly give it to your main, right? Like
Yeah, that's what I
You
was
have to
saying.
still buy it, and it still costs in-game currency to afford.
exactly. So that is a really important thing people need to know. If you want to make alts, if you have the time to make alts, you can do it. But it's not one of those games where if you have an alt, your main will be so much stronger. No. So if you want to, for example, move you focus on your main or as a smith on smithing or making gear, and then on the alt you want to make gems, you can't directly give it to the main. You put it in the auction house and you try to take it away before someone else gets it. But in a CBT, it was already hard, and imagine how it's going to be when the game releases. So even if you put it in, you are basically, let's say you're putting it for 1 gold or 1 lunar, then it's guaranteed you won't get it. Or I mean, it was from the start. It's unlikely that you're going to get it in an active player base. So it doesn't give you direct advantage. It just helps the game, and I'm pretty sure if you try to get around it, you won't, because some other people are going to see it and buy it before you can buy it. So I really think we should make it clear for everyone else. Just because Kai is making alt doesn't mean directly translate it into Lost Ark, for example. A perfect example, you can trade so many stuff over to your main by just having an alt which sits at a mid game, and that will amplify the progress of your main, which is sadly the case for a lot of MMOs. And even if you don't admit it, that kind of system is a soft forcing people to make alts. And that leads back to my original statement. Even if hardcore players are like it's optional. No, it's not optional. It just feels bad for the casual player. It just so much worse, makes the game experience so much worse in so many different levels. And I really like it this way. And I can. Once again, we have here different opinions about this warehouse, but for me, it's overall a great thing because I know where the focus is, and I think the focus is correct, even though it's going to hurt all those people who want to min-max alts.
Yeah, that's what I
think they
meant.
can
But
still lift a little bit of the limitations, though, because like there's already items in there that are limited, but they don't really help you with progression at all. So I feel like they shouldn't even limit those ones to begin with. I just think they just need to rework it just a little bit.
Maybe like make no limitation for those items which can't give you power or can't be translated into Luno. But then once again, most items you trade in that way can be translated into Luno. So you can basically boost 1 char by doing that. So that, like, if you say like, oh, that's not that bad if you trade it, you have to be either certain it doesn't give you any kind of power, or like if you're unsure, then don't add it. That's my opinion. Okay, let's move on. No, dude, guys, I think it's going to be like a 5 hours podcast, man.
No, it's only been 1 hour. We're fine. Or it hasn't even been 1 hour. We're
okay. I mean, yeah, we were next is class identity. So, in general, the class system. Did you guys have the feeling the classes were unique enough? Do you think there are some issues with the class system? In general, also how you build a class. Is it overall fine with you guys? Where do you want to see some improvements?
Well, I played 2 classes. I played Stormblade and I played Mage. And both of those classes, they had, each class actually has 2 separate subclasses that you get after maxing out your first tree, your main tree. And then within those 2 subclasses, there's always one that was just the ridiculously OP one, and everyone would just go for that one and then screw the other one. So I think a change that they can make is kind of making it balanced enough to where it's fine to play the non-meta subclass. That's just how I feel so far. But besides that, I think every subclass plays a lot differently from amongst each other.
Yeah, I think balancing the talent trees is definitely a thing that needs to be done. However, for like, I played the tank as an example, but I think for the tank, both sides were viable, funnily enough. But for the ranger, as an example, it was the exact opposite of what I played. Where it's like just the Hawk side, the other side, whatever, who cares, you know? Another thing, what I would like as an example, as someone to play tank, is be able to use my shield I get the thing with auto shielding, and mobile players are like, okay, it's easier for them, but they should make it like a toggle, so the people that play on PC can then have it manually on, and the people that play on mobile have it on like by default or something. So there's like more versatility for your playstyles in general.
Here I am back with some notes here so that people can understand what you're talking. So, like it's easy to misunderstand things because we take it for, oh yeah, it's obvious what I'm talking about. So for example, you were talking about auto shielding, right? That could be misunderstood. What he's talking about is your class has a block chance. The one tree which Kai focused on, I also played the tank as one of my mains. I played the other one. So Kai was focusing on the branch, the subclass, which focuses around blocking and just being a bulk tank. So the block chance was increased. You didn't have to actively block. That is what he's talking about. The auto blocking could be misunderstood as if you would like press like a button and then hold it, and then it while you or like toggle it, and then it just auto blocks everything. No, it's not the case. It's a block chance like you have in a lot of other MMORPGs. What Kai wants is what we had in Blue Protocol, where you have to actively right-click to block. I think that's a good one. I don't mind either, but I think if you think about casuals, adding another layer of skill check might be difficult, but I don't feel like even without the blocking, you still have, like, that's something I want to hear from you guys. You still have a skill floor and a skill ceiling, right? You will know, even with the current systems, this is a good player and this is like an average player, right? Like there's still a gap between both for the class you played.
Yeah, there is one somewhat, but that's why I think the shield thing wouldn't really hurt too much.
What about the class you played, Bitter? Do you think there's like a large enough gap between skill floor and skill ceiling?
I think so. There's still, as much as people like to, because I heard over at the tank side there's not too much rotation. I'm not really sure though. But then for what the classes I played, which is again Stormblade and Frostmage, there is definitely like a floor and a ceiling for the subclasses that I did play, and there is I would say kind of complex rotation, at least for Stormblade. Frostmage, I mean, it's not really that complex, but there's still a rotation that you have to follow to get to achieve high damage, and then you still have to take into account like raid mechanics and patterns, and then adjust your rotation accordingly to the attacks that are happening. So yeah, I think there's a proper ceiling and a proper floor, or for at least just the classes I play.
Yeah, I had the feeling too. I played before in the previous beta. It was like a long time ago. I played the bow class, right? I'm avoiding to mention the class names because they might change. So I would rather mention the weapon they use because that won't change. So the bow class, as Kai mentioned, I tested the hawk one and I tested the pet focus one. And I felt like it was both fine. Like, of course, they're going to be different. I am not a believer of a perfect balance. I think it's an impossible thing. I am a strong believer that it's back and forth because the more complex or the more skills a class has, the harder it is to perfectly balance it between specs and also between all the classes. But the bigger question is, are they doing the correct, like, are they approaching it the correct way? For example, the spear class, right, was really bad at the beginning. People like reroll to other classes. Wasn't that the case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much.
So,
everyone just rerolled to mage.
Exactly. And then there was a balance patch. Did you guys had the feeling that the patch was targeting the correct issues with that class, and did it make it better?
I feel like it's hard to tell because I didn't play it, but I know a friend of mine who played it who did feel like it got it at least a bit better, but he was still on the wrong side because apparently the aerial side got really strong after the buffs.
Yeah, but it was bad before, and then it got better, right? So that okay. So that is the thing, right? Like, once again, I don't think there will be a perfect balance in MMOs. It's too much to ask. I would even call it like a wishful thinking that it will ever happen. But I'm fine if I see that they are trying to balance it the correct way. And if it's a back and forth, right, I'm fine if it in this season one class is stronger, but in next season the other one. As long as you find a balance, at some point everyone will have the feeling their class is appreciated and gets what it deserves. Okay.
I hope so.
Yeah. So next we have I will skip a few questions if they are like, there are questions one answer which are pretty obvious. So the other thing we talked already about the PvP stuff. We heard from them that the game going to be like seasonal, right? We already knew that because the armband system in the game is like a gear which was obvious. It was tied to the battle pass in game. The first question would be here, when we played the very first test of Star Resonance, I felt like the battle pass was really pay to win. And after playing the recent test, I felt like they did a really great job to make it not pay to win, because now you can get the battle pass currency just by killing mobs.
Yes, it was really bad in the previous test because the little things that you needed for your armband, there were like 100 of them weekly, and they were like impossible to get unless you were swiping in a way, is how I would describe it, even though you can swipe during the first test, but we knew it was like the paid rose orbs, right? And in this test, you could just farm mobs or anything like that, and you would just get the currency over and over. They would just feed it to you in the most recent test. So I'm much happier with how it is currently.
I have no opinion on because I never played a beta test one. I just think that there's not really the armband right now. The armband that I tested back in April, though, I don't see anything pay to win about it.
Yeah, which is great because we can tell you it was fucking pay to win in the beta.
It was.
So I'm glad that you agree with the current state that it's totally fine. And I really like it to have like a seasonal system right from the get go. Okay, this season, we found those things. The armband gonna get these kind of effects, and then the next season it resets. Right? It's just one system for those people who don't know. It gives you passives while you grind mobs. You use those materials to upgrade the armband, and which gives you points, which you can use to focus on specific passives. That's like a really TLDR of what the system is. And as it looks like it's going to reset every season, but the majority of the system which are gear related gonna stay. So it's not like your complete character gets wiped. So I would really try to make it clear what we are talking about so that it can't be misunderstood. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna overlook some stuff. People are gonna misunderstand. But we will try to clarify all those things in our Star Resonance database, Discord, Twitter, or also below in the YouTube comments. Okay. Next we have, let's combine these questions. So we have the guild feature, all those guild hubs and so on, and the player housing, which got confirmed as something which we have at release. So both fall under like the social aspect. How do you feel about it? Like how did the guild feature feel like, and what are your expectations for the player housing?
I wish there was a little bit more customization that you can do with the guild hall.
Mm-hmm.
But I think locking a bit of progression through, because there is like materials that you get from the guild hall. I think locking some of the progression materials behind guild hall, it encourages people to actually join guilds and kind of interact with the social aspect, even if they, I think we mentioned earlier how many people are solo players.
Yeah,
maybe it'll get them out of their shell for once and interact with features to progress their gear. And for housing, I mean, I didn't really have experience with it, and even if I did, I can't really say anything because it's under NDA right now. But from what I've heard so far from like the dev interviews, how there's a lot of social stuff in the housing. I think if they launch it properly, I think we have a solid social features in place just for the launch so far.
All right. Well, I think the guild housing is all right with like Vidu said. I think it's fine to make important to mention, like it's fine to make a guild by yourself as well, and you can still access these features. It will just take a bit longer to level up the guild by yourself, but you can still do it by yourself technically. Just make a guild for yourself and don't invite anyone, and level it up over time.
Wait, how?
But I would.
Wait, Kai. Wait.
You need
I'm
10
gonna cut you off there.
signatures. You need 10
You
signatures.
need 10. Well, oh yeah, for the guild hall you need 10 signatures. Okay, they should remove
Yes.
that. New update. What I would like to see for the guild hall, however, is I would like it to be
Fact-checked, man.
transformative. I would like it to be transformative. Like if I upgrade something in the guild house, I want it to upgrade whenever like everyone gets kicked out of it and something transformative happens. Like let's say we have a bed in the guild hall at the moment, so I upgraded the guild hall. I would now like to see 2 beds and like 2 benches instead of like 1. So it's more social in a way. As for
Yeah.
housing, supposedly they have high hopes for it, so I can only see good things coming from that as another social feature for players that are into that.
So my take here is like I will combine what you guys both just said about the guild and giving you rewards which are progress related. I gonna always return to this major point, which is it forced? Is it mandatory? Is it a lot? Right? So the things you can get as someone who interacts with the guild through the and get the stuff from the guild vendor. Once again, there are some progression related weekly limited stuff you can buy from the guild vendor, and the currency to buy it is obviously rewarded by interacting with guild, joining with them on guild dance battles, which just happen throughout the weekend, or some clear the guild bosses. Luckily, you can do those solo too. And do you guys think that the things you get weekly from the guild vendor are so huge that you're going to be so far behind if you don't participate in guild activities?
I think so, actually. There's not only the guild vendor, but what you said, there's the guild dungeon that you do. There's materials that you need from that guild dungeon to make imagines. It's the it's like, I think they're called the premium materials or the top quality materials, one of those two.
Just to make it clear, is that material only obtainable through the dungeon? Like, I just want to give the audience, it sounded like you can only get it from there.
Yeah, no, it's not only that. I mean, there's other sources, but then like just having an additional source just increases how much resources you get per week. And then there's one more that we're all forgetting, which is the guild cargo. That one gives you unbound Luno, which is a resource that you use to purchase stuff in the auction house.
Yeah, I think that's the most important one. It's like 18k a day or something. It doesn't seem like much, but
in
it's
the beta
like,
anyways.
Yeah, it was in the beta, right? And it's like it was in the beta. It was also like the only source of obtaining it. So I kind of hope they added more sources of obtaining that, and that way, you don't feel as forced to join a guild.
Wait, was it the only way? I
think there were more, right?
Although the other way would be to sell your materials that you obtain through life skills.
But I mean, yeah, of course.
But no,
I would just say it's just limited.
To do that, you needed Luno to put something on the auction house, the unbound currency. So you would need to do the cargo first before you'd be able to sell something on the auction house.
I am pretty sure you got something without interacting at a base. So as long as you don't waste it right at the beginning, I think you can snowball it into selling materials and so on. But we are going too deep into that territory. So what I wanted to make clear is the guild stuff is really important, what you can get. Now, the follow-up question, which is even more important, is do you need to socialize and actively interact with your guildmates to get all those benefits, or exactly? So exactly. So that is the important part, right? So once again, I'm here trying to give all those people who have never played it a really wide range of information so that they can understand it. So if you would have just stopped there where we just were, people would be like, okay, fuck this. I have to join a guild and do those things with those guild men. No. Okay, so guild is important because of all those things which we just mentioned, but you don't have to actively engage with all those people. You can just join a random guild, do the guild dungeon bosses on your own, do the cargo on your own. I mean, no one can help you there. And you can, basically everything you can do on your own, even though you are in a guild. So it's not mandatory. But obviously, if you socially interact with them, it's going to make it more fun. But that's an optional choice, right? It doesn't give you any value outside of that. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. So,
I mean, just having more friends to... Yeah, I mean, socializing means that you get more friends to run content with you. I mean, but yeah, it's not that big of a deal, I guess.
I mean, for us who like to socialize, it sounds like easy, right? It's also like in every other game, it's like, I'm struggling to find groups. People are like, yo, just make friends, just make groups. Okay, so it's not like everyone in the world, and especially a lot of people, I think a lot of like 30-40%, maybe more, are like, I just want to do my stuff. Like, even in an MMO, a lot of people just want to do their stuff, what they enjoy. They don't want to be forced into a guild to interact with the friend circle or make friends. They don't want to, and that shouldn't be mandatory. I think we need to acknowledge that.
Yeah, it's not required, but it's recommended.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Okay. Then we have the life skill. That was a huge topic. We felt like it was restricted, like the stamina system and so on. So you had a limited stamina per day. I mean, at reset you got some more, and then you could every time you gathered something, you used stamina, and every time you processed it, it also used stamina. So I can understand it. There needs to be a limitation to the limitation gives value to the items. Do you guys agree, right? So if I can farm something infinitely, it loses value.
Yeah.
So for an active economy, you need things which are limited. Because the more limited they are, the more rare they are, the higher the value usually, right? But it was still bad because it was like 10 minutes per day, and then, or like 20 minutes per day, and then you ran out of stamina, and that's gone. And I think it was a bad execution back then for such a nice system. And they addressed it. So according to the interview, they made so that there is a way to farm materials, which, as far as I understand it, you have now the option to either spend energy to gather materials or not spend energy. The difference is something similar to what we have in other MMOs. If you choose to spend energy, then you can trade those materials, right? So these are the limited one. If you choose not to spend energy, you still get materials, but they are bound to you. So you can use it for your self-use or whatever you call it, right? I think that's a great idea. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. Personally, I was hoping for something like this from the very beginning, so players that can grind for themselves, and then it's untradeable, which is completely fine. And if you want to, as an example, you can still sell some as like a backup, and then you get some, unbound Luno income as well, while you also have some for your own personal use.
Yeah.
Do we know if we can craft everything without energy?
We do not know.
We don't know.
Okay.
I think only trading was. I think they mentioned that anything trading related costs energy. So I would assume, once again, it's an assumption. Okay, clear disclaimer. I would assume if you choose to not spend energy and gather it, that item will be a bound item, and crafting with those bound items shouldn't logically cost any energy either.
Yeah.
But when I think about it, when I think about it, there should be a limit though, because that otherwise you could just, some professions which are gear related can just farm and just reach the cap. I mean, okay, the blue orb is still a limiting factor. You can't
time gated, by the orbs.
Yeah, okay, it's fine.
Well, I mean, as long as you're just able to gain EXP, I think that was the big negative back then is like once you're done, once you're out of energy, it's like, oh, now you can't grind your life skills anymore. And life skills, they have levels to it. Each one of them have levels to it. And then back in the April beta, you can only level up like one or maybe even two life skills at most, and there's like 9 or 8 different life skills. So with this change, they made it to where you can now grind and level up whichever life skill you choose. You're not bounded to 1 or 2 anymore. So I think that's a really good change.
Oh, dude. Okay, here I have to disagree with you because I'm not a fan of that idea. Like, if I think about it, I think it's better to let you specialize in specific life skills. That naturally creates, like, some kind of demand and supply. You supply with them with things you can create or you focus on, and you, for those everything else, you have to buy from other players. It's a natural thing to happen, and I don't think it's totally fine if you can do like 2 life skills and focus on that. You shouldn't try to make a system which allows people who can spend too many hours to get an advantage out of it. I'm a strong believer of this system. So it's totally fine if you can only do 2. I hope, and I know you don't like it, but I hope if you choose to gather things and do things without spending energy, that they don't provide any EXP, because I think the pace of how you leveled a specific life skill you chose in the beta was totally fine. I don't need to max it out in 2 days. You could progress it gradually. You could see, oh, someone reached the next threshold because he focused on that life skill slowly, or someone who's focused on 2 life skills who had to split like the stamina in between both couldn't be that far as that one person who did only 1 skill, because now he can produce already tier 3 gems, just as an example. I think that was totally fine. I'm not a fan of let those guys with 10 hours max out everything and do whatever they want and just focus. That's creating a natural benefit for those people, which an average player can't get. I'm not a fan of it.
I don't know. I just think that well, I mean, I guess as long as you're able to interact with all the systems, but I just feel like what's the point of interacting with the system if I can't progress it then?
I mean, you can progress it. You are just not happy that you can't progress everything, right? I want to make it clear. And you, and I think it's not a great idea. Yeah.
I just want to have more things to do, though.
Yes, this is, I mean, once again, that's why I have you guys here. We have me as someone who's trying to look it from the casual player, and you guys are, grinders. But like, luckily, you guys are aware that you are grinders and don't think it's like the case for majority of the player base, what you think, right? So we have the Holy Trinity here. But I can totally understand it from your point of view. You are someone who can invest the time, who wants to grind, or the game you love, or the systems you love to interact with. That's your point of view, and from your point of view, I would agree too if I was in your shoes. But if I'm viewing it that from the limited amount of time people like who can only play like X amount, let's say 2 hours, that's I think what people call it average, or the casual player, I think giving that, it puts a lot of pressure to them. Like, oh yeah, I could do more. I should. And then it's creating all those frictions, unnecessary frictions. I think all those contents which need more time shouldn't give you any advantage. And I feel like if you can in unlimited just level up everything to max because of the unlimited non-energy consuming interactions, it would be bad. That's my opinion.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna agree with that.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I mean, I gave my take already.
Okay. Next we have localization, right? We heard from them that we will have the Japanese voiceover, right? Which is a huge plus. I think the English one aren't done yet, right? So
Yeah.
what do you guys think about that? Are you guys fine with that?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm not a big story reader in the first place when it comes to MMOs, generally speaking. But I might just have a side casual playthrough where I read through everything once the English dubs or English voices are finally here. We'll have to see.
I think as long as the English translations are correct, then we're good. I think every good MMO has a story that's I guess not amazing, but it's like decent enough to like just understand what you're doing. What's the point of like doing these dungeons? I mean, even though like we always hear constantly like most people don't like to look through the story. I mean, we can say that, but then usually we kind of have a foundation of what the story is about, regardless if we hate the story or not. And I think that's the most important part. Is just knowing a little bit about the characters, you know, the protagonist and the antagonist side of things.
Yeah, there's nothing more to add. I totally agree with that one. What a surprise. Then we have the controversial thing happening here around the auto combat system, right? So TLDR, in the beta we had the auto combat, which is basically the once you hold down a button, if you enable it in the settings, your char will just randomly spam stuff on the target. And I mean, I used it for world bosses because it's just trivial stuff, and I am pretty sure that's something you shouldn't use if you don't want to grieve your teammates in any actual content. That was the case in beta. Do you guys agree with that?
You would only use that for like the really trivial content like field bosses. I mean, that's pretty much the only thing I used it for. Oh, never mind. I take that back. There's one more thing I used it on, which was the mob farming back in beta for April, but I heard they nerfed the drops from that, so I'm pretty sure it's not viable for that anymore. It's just field bosses now.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Like, it is always like it was one of those things I was making sure that it's voiced properly. Like, my opinion is the system how it is currently, it's totally fine, but they shouldn't add anything further to it. They shouldn't make it viable for dungeons. They shouldn't. No, just don't. How it is, it's totally fine. Yep. If someone decides to just, help, and I'd really like it. I'd really like it if people can auto attack and just contribute to the wall post instead of people just hitting it once and just AFKing and let everyone else finish it. I hate that. So I would prefer if you have that auto combat for those world bosses, which are now easier because you are overgearing it, or if, for whatever reasons, and you just want to farm it for the limited keys you have per day, you want to open the box to get the Imagine from the world boss or other materials, I think it's totally fine to have the auto combat system.
I don't know about that one. I think for a Western audience, just having the word auto in anything already is just going to make a lot of people upset.
Yes.
I personally just wish they didn't have auto combat for global. Just disable the whole feature. Just remove it, because I know it's a toggleable setting in the settings menu. Just remove it. I don't think we need it.
I mean, I agree that it could probably be removed, but then again, there's the mobile audience that we're all well aware of. But I think it can still go, but I think there will be some cases where people will just refer to using that, whether it's for like main quests on mobile or like world boss farming. People will still find a use out of it, and it's not going to be used in dungeons, as we know. So I'm not too worried, but the Westerners hear about it and they're like, "Oh no, auto, I'm out."
Yeah, exactly because of what Bidov just mentioned. That's why I brought it up, because we are here to provide context, right? So I totally agree. Anything with auto, anything with monetization, like there are some words, once the Western audience hears it, it's automatically in one of those categories. They are automatically sorted into one of those categories. And by providing these kind of contents, we can give them more, more situational awareness of what is actually, like, where to put it into the game. And once again, I think, like, I would be a huge fan if they just entirely remove it, but I also want to make clear that the current auto system they have is nothing where, you should use or will be able to actually use without getting kicked from the party in any kind of actual content.
Well, I hope they get the message, because like I remember I mentioned that in like my YouTube comment section, and then like some parts of Discord, and then like I just feel like people don't believe me that it's not that big of a deal. I just think that people need to experience it firsthand in whenever the global beta comes out, what we're talking about. But yeah, like 3 of us here are literally saying and we have a lot of experience with this game already, like hundreds of hours, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
That the auto combat is not as impactful as you guys think. It's not something as menacing. Like I think the biggest example I can compare it to is like early days of Throne and Liberty, where they had like autoplay. It's nothing like that at all.
Yeah. But we also agree if they remove it, that's still a better thing to have. But the way it is currently, it is not as bad as what you guys think. And also, if you don't mention it directly in the video and put it in a comment, I'm pretty sure 99% won't even read the comments, right? So that is the other issue. That's why I'm trying to give so much context, or we are trying to give so much context. Every time you guys say something, I'm like, can this be misunderstood? So that's my thought process.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the simple one. I mean, it's pretty much what I want to have, the Megaservers, right? Like I really love the idea of Megaserver. That's what they intended to have for Blue Protocol. I feel like we shouldn't be split into multiple servers, and even if we are same region. At the same time, even if we are from different regions, like America or like continents, even Europe, we should share the world. But everyone should be aware there are physical limitations, right? I don't think a lot of people think mega server everyone can play, even with my as someone from Europe, I can play with people from NA, but there will be this physical ping issue. I don't think there. You need to be aware of that. It's not like it's going to be flawless. It gives you the option to play with your friends, but I don't think they can't magically delete the distance between you guys.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I think Mega Server is definitely fine. Like you said, they can do like shorts or something, right? Like America and European short or something. But when one goes to the other, one person has to expect higher ping regardless. Even so, having played like the Chinese beta, the ping issues or whatever, I haven't really felt like that bad at all so far.
Yeah, I played over 200 ping. I'm over here playing in California, West Coast, and it's all like the server's all the way at China, right? And I haven't really felt any ping issue. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I got like constant drops, but then after getting like a VPN just to ensure that I don't get like ping spikes or anything like that, it was way better. I would say flawless. I didn't feel the ping at all after using a VPN.
Yep, I agree. I think based on what I experienced so far, I think it shouldn't be an issue if you play with someone over, from Europe, or with someone from USA or in A and or the other way around. I think it should be still fine, but I still want to make people aware of the fact there is a distance, which is the main factor leading to higher ping. So people shouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Yeah. And also I'd like to add something else to that. A lot of your actions that you do in the game is local science, client sided. So that's why it doesn't feel that bad having really high ping, because everything just happens pretty much in real time for what you do, how you play your class. So that's really important to know.
Okay, next we have some smaller topics again, like the controller support was confirmed. I personally think they have all those blocks they need to make it happen for consoles. They should think about it.
Yeah.
And even before consoles, I think Steamdeck should be supported. A lot of people I know are getting Steamdeck recently. I think I might get one too. And if I can play it on Steamdeck, it would be really awesome.
Well, I heard from Ava, and I'm gonna leak this a little bit. I don't think it's gonna be under any kind of NDA.
Oh shit!
A moderator did tell me. What some of their questions they get on their server, because there's like a I forgot what the channel's called. I think it's called developer staff. But it's a way to like send questions over to the community team over at the official Discord.
Mhm.
And a lot of the questions that they said, or this moderator claims that he's getting, is regarding the Steam Deck. So I think there's actually a lot of people, and I'm agreeing with you here, Percy, that there's a lot of people that actually care about if the Steam Deck compatibility.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, I think personally I would like to see it on console eventually, but I think if it just has a good launch, console launch is like inevitable.
Yep. I hope that will be sooner than later. But it is, once again, I'm totally fine with them focusing on PC first. I always dislike the fact if the developers or publishers try to please everyone, every player at the same time, often leads into them providing shallow experience in all the contents instead of focusing on specific core elements and make them really great first before adventuring into new stuff. So I really like the fact that they know what they want to focus on first, which you can't take it for granted nowadays with all those developers.
That's true. Yeah. Please a few people, not everyone first.
Yeah, please the audience you're targeting. Like, it doesn't matter if your target audience
or the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're targeting a niche audience. Like, if you're someone who wants to make a game for a PvP hardcore audience, then that is your focus. Please them. If some random people who are casual join and wants the game to be completely different, you should be able to ignore them. Make it clear that is your game, this is your vision, and this is the target audience. And if make sure that every decision you make benefits the audience you want as your core player base. I think that's from a point of view of a player. Like, once again, I could be complete.
Yeah, you worded it way better than I did previously. I think what I did was pretty bad.
It's fine. That's why we are a team here. Okay. Next we have, they hinted that the Western beta is soon TM. That soon TM can be anything between 1 month and 6 months, right? But I have the feeling it's going to be really soon. So like I would say 2-3 months, maybe. I hope copium, but who knows? Anything you want to add regarding that? Yeah.
Wait. Did you say global beta or global launch?
Yeah, global beta.
Beta. Okay.
Within 6 months? No, they said soon. I think soon is somewhere July.
No, that was a general thing. Like, soon TM could be anything between, in general. But
yeah,
then I
from now on till the end of the year, I guess.
Yeah. But I for this particular case, I think it should be like within the next 2-3 months. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I'm guessing within the next 2 months or so, something like that. I hope it's sooner, but we will have to wait and see.
Yep.
I think it might be tomorrow. Who knows?
Oh, guys, we have something to announce at the end of this. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wish.
No, but I hope it's July, sometime in July. We'll see. Maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's 2 months.
Maybe not. Last one on the list. Oh my god, I think that's also a short one. Basically, that was important for us. That's not even a question which the community asked. Once again, we collected those questions from the community, and then I'm pretty happy with the questions we chose, because you didn't want it to be the typical journalist Q&A stuff where you avoid those difficult conversations. That was never our way. That wasn't the case on our previous interview with AGS back then, and it's not the case for this one either. So we wanted to be this link always between those developers and community, the star, as the stars in his database community. And I think we did it very well. And we wanted to, like, the last question was something we wanted to know, or if we will have those kind of interactions in the future too. On top of that, we want, based on what we saw from games from Eastern publishers, they usually make developer streams and so on, which are pretty awesome, and events mainly for their country, or like for the Eastern audience. And I think like that's why we asked if it's possible that they're going to do something like that for us too, and they said yes. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I love developer live streams from any game. I just enjoy watching them and seeing what they have to offer us next. So seeing that we get more opportunities, whether it's like questions or just live streams in general, is a good thing, of course.
Yeah, more interaction, more communication with the devs and the community is always very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, we are done with all the important stuff, and now we have only one more topic left, which is the, not a global release, how people would phrase it. It's going to be for sure now Chinese first, and I think based on the current schedule, I would assume it's going to be like 2-3 months after that we're going to get the Western release. Or maybe like 4 months, but I hope still this year. There will be like a gap. What do you guys think about this entire situation? What are the benefits? What are the disadvantages? Let's explore both sides.
Personally, I'm okay with it because I think it's basically kind of like China's beta testing the game for us, and we are gonna have like different changes compared to what they have, right? So let's say later down the line, before we get our release, they discover like a game-breaking bug or something, and then that something will be fixed for us, hopefully, by the time it releases for us. Like, as an example, let's say they find a glitch for like infinite rows or for like a day, and then it gets like hot fixed, and then we could technically do it on our launch, but because we have it later, then we won't be able to do it because it's hot fixed or like some other dungeon game breaking bugs. The bad side, of course, is because it's not a global release. People are afraid that everyone's already gonna know anything by the time everything by the time it releases for global, and I can also understand that side.
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm like pretty much used to East Asia MMOs being ported over to global being like a few months or even like a couple years late. So I'm very much desensitized to the entire issue, but I do understand a lot of people's points that they brought up in the past couple weeks when I mentioned the desynced release topic. Kai was mentioning how one of the negatives was or is that like you everything is already solved for you, so it just feels kind of bad to like try something out, try something new, but you already know that it's not the like meta or what you should be doing. So you're always just having to you feel like you're forced to do a certain thing that that will help you more in your progression. And then it's also another negative is like the leaderboards. So for those that are really hardcore, want to min max, get into these PvE leaderboards, well, it's like you don't really care too much because like the strats have already been solved. There's nothing you can necessarily hide from other competitors, so it's just a lot of the fun is just taken out there. And then like after the whole event ends, it's like no, like anyone outside the event that are just spectating, they don't really care what place you got. I mean that's just how I felt when I competed for these other leaderboards and other global MMOs. Like people just didn't really care too much after. So I think those are the two biggest downsides. But let's tie it back into like positives. Like Kai mentioned, there is a huge possibility that they change a lot of the they like fix a lot of like bugs and like exploits that we would have possibly had here that would have kind of soured the experience. I feel like there's a couple more benefits, but my brain's a little foggy. I've been yapping a little bit too much on this topic.
What do you mean? It has been only 2 hours, man, or even less than 2 hours. Okay.
Only less than 2 hours.
So now my turn, and I will turn some of the positives you mentioned into negatives and the other way around. Okay. So first of all, we have the things getting solved, right? I agree to a certain degree with that statement. Like, let's perfect example, Lost Ark, those fucking Legion raids, which are really difficult if you are playing the Korean server when it gets released. They get it like months ahead of the Western player base. It's a different experience, right? You go into a raid, you have no clue how it works, and then you have to, like, I'm a huge fan of it, right? you explore, you waste hours on figuring out how a mechanic works, and then you solve it after a couple of days. You clear it together as a community. That's a different feeling than after a couple months, you know already how the mechanics work. It's now about learning the mechanics faster than the other people on your region and just clearing it. That's a different kind of thing. I can see if you are that type of player who likes that, you will feel like that's a really bad thing. I would agree, and I'm kind of in that situation too. But okay, so here's the thing: how many people of a general player base really care about that competitive stuff? Not many. That's what I personally feel like. That's not many. And even if those things get released and solved, a lot of people don't follow what happens on their other side of the world. It's like if you are in a Discord community, if you are on a Reddit for this game, if you are on following a content creator who makes a living out of playing the game, obviously you will have the feeling everyone cares about it, everyone knows about it. But if you interact with the average Joe, the majority of the player base who doesn't do that because they don't have the time to follow everything 24/7, they don't know that. When their patch notes release and it's like, here's a new dungeon, they're like, oh wow, what? Let's see if there are already guides out there. And I have the feeling a lot of people still appreciate guides because they want, not everyone enjoys, and I enjoy it, but not everyone enjoys solving puzzles and has the luxury of wiping 10 hours to figure out one mechanic. They would rather enjoy the fight and don't want to waste energy on figuring out stuff. That's what I personally feel like after absorbing both sides and by knowing which side is the actual majority. Do you guys disagree?
I agree with that one. I remember the old days of Lost Ark. Not everyone was looking at guides of what to do and how to solve raids. There were a handful, sure, but most people weren't doing that. Only now, like after a couple years, when the raids got really hard and like the population kind of thickened. That's when everyone just started looking at guides because everyone wanted just min-max. But I mean that's a whole different story. I
can tell you that observation is wrong because I know the numbers, right? Like I wrote guide for those raids. The more casual people you have playing currently actively the game, the more views you usually get for those kind of guides, because not everyone is interested in solving those puzzles, finding out by trial what the best builds are. Some people just want to, don't waste time on those kind of things. They just want to experience the game itself. They don't want to waste time on figuring out those things. And the majority of the casual player base are the ones who rely on the guides or want to read the guides. The hardcore players are never the target audience of guides, or like the least the least amount of hardcore players to read guides, because they figure it out fast. They don't need they check out short videos, clips. They don't need a lot of explanation. There is like some kind of intuitive reaction to certain things, muscle memories they have, which doesn't need a lot of explanation for them to succeed mechanics and so on. So that is the fact from the other point of view, from knowing when the numbers were high, when the numbers were low. But in general, I think that's something you can already assume. But yeah, so what do you think, Kai?
Sorry, I had to open the door real quick. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What? I already said my take. What?
This don't cut it. Don't cut. This won't be edited out, man. This is gonna be in there forever. The thing was about the majority of the player base not caring about leaderboards, or they don't follow how other side of the world clears the content. The majority of the player base just want to get those things done. If it gets released to Western audience, they will check if there are guides because they don't care about solving the puzzles. They don't want to figure out themselves checking what the best builds are after a balance change. They want to get it, they want to just have it from other people told, so that they can focus on just playing the game instead of solving puzzles. Do you agree with that?
I think there's a side that will not care about it. I think the side that does care about that will not go out of their way from their very beginning to look up things. Because even though it's gonna be like a 2 or 3 month old game, like in China, there's still gonna be players that are completely fresh to the game and are not gonna look a thing up from the beginning and just figure out things themselves. So the ones that want to can look it up, and the ones that don't want to probably won't look it up.
Yeah, and another thing I like to point out too is like there's not too much FOMO. I would say there's not really any FOMO in this game. There's nothing that you really need to finish within the week, because I think a lot of players are going to come from these like hardcore raid MMOs. They have this experience like, oh, I gotta finish these raids as fast as possible, or I'm gonna fall really far behind. But no, you don't really need to do that, because there's actual other ways of getting a lot of this resources that you can get from the dungeons themselves.
Yep, that is important key information. Thank you for providing this bit of what a chat.
Yep, no problem.
The other thing I wanted to address is Kai and you bit of agreeing that they're going to beta test that. Thanks to them, we won't have to worry about those game breaking stuff. I have to break that illusion soon, because it ties into the actual good thing is we want the game to be different and more suited for Western audience. Anyone who believes, once again, every MMO player believes that, or a lot of MMO players believe that we are that one symbiotic, hive-minded people who want the same for every MMO. No, there are people like PvE, PvP, roleplay, people who can invest more time, who can invest less time, people who are really good at the game, people who, okay, the other part, and there are so many preferences. We don't want this, and even like if you split the player base based on region, what is considered as pay to win or the threshold of grindy is completely different for a Korean player base compared to a Western player base. That's something I'm 100% sure of after all those games I played, and based on that, I think it's not a bad idea to have a desync release, since I want some of those contents which the Chinese people have for their version to be altered to suit more towards the preference of the general player base in the Western audience.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think if we're gonna have like differences, whether it's monetization or just general stuff in the game, like life skills, we'll probably encounter some bugs regardless that it wouldn't be there otherwise.
Exactly. That's the second point I wanted to tie into by mentioning, hey, we will, and I hope we're gonna give it like an adjusted client based on our preferences, the Western preferences. But that also means that issues and bugs, which the Chinese one never got, will most likely happen for us because our client is a different one. That is a lot of things you only learn when you invest time into it. Like if you ask an average player, they're going to be like, oh, the Chinese got it, just translate it and just put it up. It doesn't take time to give it to us, right? And I think there's a longer process, especially if the client from us for us is completely different. It's just not translating. It also means everything they add to the Chinese client needs to be added to ours without messing up making any issues caused by the difference of clients we have. So there are a lot of things which a normal player doesn't consider, and I don't blame them for that. But that's how it is, and I think it has advantages. Once again, we get something which is more suited for us. The disadvantage is, once again, there's a delay, and we might encounter issues which they didn't encounter.
Yeah, that's I 100% agree with that. I totally forgot that there could be exclusive bugs over at the global side. I think Lost Ark had a few of those.
I think every game has that.
Every game.
Yeah, every game which had that kind of separate client to adjust towards their client. And so just as a side topic here, that's also one of the reasons why I think it's a good idea to have different publishers who are used to publishing games in that specific region or for that specific target audience, since they know the Western, for example, Western publisher knows the Western audience way better than an Eastern publisher. That's why I think people don't like it if it gets split into multiple publishers for each specific region. I can totally understand that because it comes with all those delays. But at the same time, there are benefits which people don't like to hear, but it's fact, I would say. Okay. Well, I think we are good. Anything you guys want to add?
Not that I can think of.
Regarding Star Resonance?
What else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, what else?
I mean, this is called Resonance Cast, not MMO Cast. I mean, you guys are both streaming, both active content creators. So we will have in the description below the links for both of those amazing looking guys here, and check them out. Both of them also make videos about all the new stuff happening. So if you are one of those people who have the time to check out these contents, they are the go-to content creators currently for Star Resonance. So check them out. Other than that, that's the wrap for our first Star Resonance, or how do I call it? We can see it on the bottom right, Resonance Cast episode. Thanks for hanging out with us as we cracked open all those latest things about Blue Protocol, going over the interview and the release cadence, or actually the difference. We will be back with more episodes. I don't want to say it's going to be one every week. We might do multiple per week. Depends on what happens here and there. If you want us to talk about specific content, feel free to leave a comment down below, or just join our Star Resonance database. All the socials related to Star Resonance database, just scan the QR code on the bottom left and you will have the links to all those things. Thank you very much, Bidov. Thank you very much, Kai. It was a pleasure, and I hope
thank you, Percy.
I hope I can we will have many more conversations like that where we can yap about all those topics.
That was very good.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. And until next time, stay resonant. Bye-bye.